donkeys. It was a win, but it wasn't the big win that we were looking for. However, the real win was for the city of Cripple Creek with thousands of visitors and goodwill galore. The 2 Mile High absolutely needs the support of the city to make this a win for all of us. In the future, we highly encourage the city to schedule the completion of a functional city park, such as that which is available in Woodland Park or in Victor, so that events do not have to include infrastructure costs in order to put on their event. We hope that Donkey Derby Day 2022 provided you all with an example of what can be accomplished and how we can bring people here to support our events and all of our businesses. If, as the city conducts its budget review for 2023, could you please include additional infrastructure support in the future? Such action would allow the nonprofits to succeed and historical events to continue. We would like to look, all of you, look at our photographs for Donkey Derby Days 2022 on our Facebook page, and hope that you can agree that this is what you would all like to see in Cripple Creek in the future. Thank you for your attention. I'll take any questions if you have any.
Thank you, Kurt. I appreciate the work and effort to 2 Mile High Club
Thank
put out
you.
to make it a success. Looking forward to 23.
Thanks.
All right, Sharon Monroe.
My name is Sharon Monroe and I live at 222 East Eaton Avenue. At a council meeting prior to April 18, 2018, I expressed concern I would not be able to look south across Cripple Creek from my home because of a parking garage proposal by Bronco Billy's and Full House Resorts. At that time, I was approached by representatives from these entities offering to take pictures from my balcony and editing them to include the garage. I viewed these pictures at Bronco Billy's, and the pictures showed the parking garage did not obstruct my view. Based on these assurances, I commented in favor of the project at the April 18, 2018 meeting. A person from Full House Resorts demonstrated the 2 sets of criteria required to obtain certificates to proceed were met. The exterior designs show historical relevance, and there are benefits to the community and its residents. A height variance for a 6-story building was requested for one end of the project. Zoom meetings only went into effect March 2020. It appears the city of Cripple Creek took advantage of pandemic restrictions to consider and pass motions that avoided opposition commentary from residents. By March 2022, 2 more height variance motions were passed, where the criteria reaffirmed each time a motion for a new height variance was passed. If not, why not? My backyard prayer group no longer meets there because the noise became intrusive. Now I know God is everywhere and prayer is not restricted to a building. But this opportunity for friends to pray and study together is restricted. It appears the expansion approved by the city in 2018 will finish in 2023, 6 stories above par and 9 stories above bed. The view from my backyard is now dominated by construction of a parking garage and a 9-story hotel. Council members, How many of you have the same view from your backyards? How are these changes beneficial to me? I was explicitly assured in person, based upon photographic evidence, that this would not happen. The city does not owe me a view. Based upon your oaths of office, the city does owe me honesty and integrity, and I would like to work further with you to address this. What may I expect from the city?
What are you asking from the city?
This is not a forum where we can discuss that kind of thing. I would just like to work further with the city. I have no expectations. In fact, my expectations are SOL. But I am really willing to sit down and get some of these questions that I presented to y'all tonight answered.
I think that, that's a fair request, and I think it can be accomplished.
Thank you. Y'all have any questions for me?
Well,
I have a comment.
you'll have to come to the podium.
I would like to comment, ma'am. I'm at 103 East Eaton and I can't see my beautiful winter sunrises either.
Pardon me, I'm sorry.
I'm at 103 East and I'm obstructed now too.
At one time, I could see the road to Victor and I could see the headframe. And based on the photography that was done by the architect, he said, this is all you're going to see. You're going to still see across Cripple Creek. You're going to see the road to Victor. And you're going to see the headframe. Now I see nothing but sky. Thank you.
I live at 220 East Eaton, right next to Sharon. And the reason,
State your name.
my name is April Arlt. And the reason that we purchased our home at that location was because we had a gorgeous view. We saw not only the road to Victor, we could see all the Sangre de Cristos, which everything now is totally blocked. I think you do owe us a reason as to why you have gone ahead and without any okay from the residents, Bronco Billy's and the council have decided that it's better for you to go ahead with this. And I don't agree. It's a blight to our community. Now you've got sidewalks going up and down everywhere. We've already had our alleyway taken away. Now our view is taken away. And now perhaps our front yard with the new sidewalks may be taken away. I don't think it's acceptable, and we'll never regain our money that we've invested in our home and in being a part of this community. So that's all I have to say. I hope somebody has some answers.
Sure. Okay.
You know, I think it would be a good idea. Is there any representatives from Full House here? None? Okay. I think it'd be a good idea if Full House had let's say a town hall or a town meeting to explain their project and their future plans to the community. And I will recommend that Full House puts that together. I hope it can answer some of your questions.
Okay.
Hi.
My name is Danielle Westcott and I live at 128 West Eden. So I'm on the west side of that, but at the same time, going past all the construction and whatnot, I know I've gotten a screw in my tire. My mom recently got 2 roofing screws in her tires. And so I think number one, I'm afraid to drive past the construction because I can't afford another flat tire. You know, and so also with the view, I was working, hold on, let me catch my breath. I was working up at Hotel St. Nicholas, which is the highest view point in the city, or one of them anyways. And even with that being said, at the second level balcony, their view is also taken away as well. And you know, why it should be allowed to just continue when it was supposed to originally just be 6 and not 9. Why should we allow them to continue that extra 3 stories when everybody could be happy if they were just at 6?
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Karen Lyons.
My name's Carla Lyons. I own a home at 511 East Golden. We operate that as a short-term rental. We have for over 3 years. We've been a good participant in the city. I grew up here, graduated from here, came back here, want a part-time home. This met our needs. But what I don't think anybody at the council knows or bothered to ask me, or the only thing I knew that was happening today was one of my friends that has one as well. No information about the discourse or that there was a problem with them or the moratorium, but I have my numbers here for the dates. So my income so far this year is $5,163. My expenses are $11,834. So I'm at a deficit of $6,600. For some reason, I think there's this mistaken idea that we're rolling in the dough. We're not. I can give you the receipts. So I just want that to be on the record that all of these, you guys are worried about these rentals. I operated a property management company up here. It was horrible. It was terrible. I would never rent my home full time. So that's just what I'd like you guys to consider on all of these things that you're going on with the short-term rental. Or maybe ask us for some input. I never knew anything was a problem. Never heard from anybody. Nobody called me. I have a business license. You have my contact information. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know if you guys don't care or you just prefer to be uninformed. I don't know. I really have a hard time with this because we're a small business. And I've heard it's tough to run a small business up here. So I'd appreciate some help on that if you don't mind. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right, that concludes the public comment. Approval of meeting minutes from August 17th, 2022, regular meeting.
Motion that we approve the meeting minutes from August 17th, 2022, regular meeting.
I'll second.
Vote please.
Councilman Solomon,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Litherland,
Yes.
Councilman Green,
Yes.
Councilwoman Shenari,
Yes.
Mayor Ashworth.
Yes. Reports. City Administrator.
Mayor, Council, a couple of things to report. One, AquaWorks, who we hired as our engineer to submit grants to DOLA and to the SRF fund, those have been submitted the end of August. They submitted the DOLA grant for the energy impact. It's for $400,000 for engineering. And then today they submitted the SRF grant loan that will be for also engineering and also for putting utility lines in the ground. Today, we went ahead and put in a number, could come down, but they're suggesting with $1 million worth of engineering that we're asking for, that we could probably qualify for $10 million worth of infrastructure improvements. So that number floats. As we get on into talking to them, we'll decide if we can handle that kind of impact to the city. But anyway, that was submitted. Today, Tess Pedersen is our dispatcher. She has 15 years of service with the city. So if you see her, you might thank her for her service. And today, the Mayor Pro Tem, myself and Jeff had a meeting in Cripple in Colorado Springs with ORIC. It's the Outdoor Recreation Institute office. It's with the state. It's a state office. And also Pikes Peak Outdoor Recreation Alliance was there. And we kind of had a listening session. They wanted to understand this side of Pikes Peak, what our thoughts were about development and recreation on this side instead of just the east side. So it was a very good meeting from my perspective. And I would like Chief O'Connor to come up. You have a minute, Mayor? He's got 2 grants that he received. I'd like for him to talk about this.
Mayor and Council, Joe O'Connor, your fire chief. We were notified today that we've been awarded 2 grants for firefighter protective clothing, both wildland and structural, as well as some other equipment. The state of Colorado's Division of Fire Prevention and Control has awarded us $66,000 for that type of gear. And the El Pomar Foundation has awarded another $5,000. So two good wins today. That should go a long way towards updating our personal protective equipment. And tonight we start our firefighter academy with 12 area volunteers. Hopefully, we're going to train them up, get them certified, and have some future employees amongst them. So thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
Good job.
Finance Director, Paul.
Good evening, council. Late last week, I received the raw gaming data for July from the Division of Gaming. And as you'll recall, last year we had a tremendous bounce, people coming out of the COVID restrictions, and the industry was doing very well. Unfortunately, for Cripple Creek this year, it has not achieved or even beaten last year's numbers. Through the first 7 months of the year, 6 of those did not beat the month for 2021. Another issue we are facing is that Blackhawk continues to grow their component of the market, which takes away market share from us and hurts us with the gaming distributions of the taxes. On a coin and table drop basis, July of 22 compared to July of 21 was down 11.2 million or 5.1%. Year to date, it is now down 36.8 million or 2.8%. And adjusted gross proceeds comparing July 22 to 21 was down 1.3 million or 7.6%. So just wanted to let you know, July is usually our normally our highest month of the year. So we'll decline now probably in August and down through the fall. But unfortunately, we're not beating 21's numbers. Thank you.
Thank you, Paul.
Can we ask the question again?
Yeah, if you come up podium.
My name is Howard McNair. I live at 137 West Carr. And my question to, what was your name again? Paul, is don't you think that because of all the construction and disarray in town, that people don't want to come up here because it's kind of torn up and things aren't normal by any stretch of the imagination? And, if the town had more things completed and stores were open and restaurants were flourishing and, we had things going on, I think there'd be a lot more traction. What do you think?
What we've seen is regionally, July and August dipped off as tourists backed away because of high gas prices, hotel prices and everything. So it's been not just us, but regionally there was a drop off.
Okay.
We've
Well,
not had input to construction or anything has been a reason for people not visiting. It's more their own disposable income and the other issues that they face.
And let me add to that too. Our hotel occupancy is up over last year.
Oh, interesting.
Yes, it is. Now, this is what's kind of interesting. Hotel occupancy is up, gaming revenue is down. And again, as Paul has mentioned, we have a number of gaming representatives here, but it appears that the average individual does not have the disposable income for gaming as they perhaps had last year or in previous years. But what's interesting is the hotel occupancy are way up. So,
Well, that's interesting.
yes, it is.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, presentations, updates. Updates from Dumont Mine.
Lori, did you get that?
Thank you so much for doing that. If we could go to that first slide there. A little bit back a couple. Excellent, thank you so much. Council, Mayor, good evening. Megan Roselle, External Relations Representative at Newmont CC&V. Here to present to you our Q3 quarterly update to the City Council. So we're going to kick off. You'll notice some colleagues behind me here. We've got our interim GM, Allison Boy, is here with us. SNR Director Katie Blake, my colleague Caitlin Ragsdale, also in external relations with me, and we'll introduce for the first time tonight Philip Snocko, who is overseeing our autonomous haulage. So as per usual, we start with the safety share. And we thought we tailored a little bit to the season and to the local climate here. So may know these already, but it's a good reminder as we start to get into our fall leaf turning season. Avoid parking on dry leaves, as we all know too good and well. Fires, exhaust systems can get incredibly hot and pose a fire threat. Keep an eye out for wildlife. So interestingly, CDOT says the highest rates of wildlife fatality occurs in November as fall arrives. The days get shorter and it gets darker sooner. So keep an extra watchful eye for that as we change into the seasons. Remember to plan for morning forecast. I don't know about you, but this gets me at least once every year where I think I'm good and going on time. And then I get out and go, oh, shoot, we've got a few more minutes to make sure I can see out the darned window. So just a friendly reminder, we're going to get into that. I know it's hot today, but in a few weeks here, you know, Mother Nature's going to turn a good one on us. Wet leaves can surprisingly be like driving on ice. They can also cover potholes and create slippery situations. So as much as they look beautiful up above, be careful down below on the streets there. And then, as we all know very well here, the leaf lookers, they are coming. And I know we tend to forget a little bit here and there and they get frustrated on a jam on 67, but in a couple weeks here, for both good for visitors and for ill for drivers, they are indeed coming. Go to the next slide. A little quick announcement here, and most of you have heard about it, but for those who have not, we do have our self-guided tours launched and up, live, ready to go. So we have 3 locations in the area that QR codes are present. What you do is take your phone up there, scan the QR code, it'll bring you to a website, and I'll show you a quick video that we've produced on our site, giving you more in-depth information on mining operations. First location is at Cripple Creek Heritage Center. Second is at the Grassy Valley Mining Overlook. And if you haven't seen it, it's pretty neat. We've got an old truck bed there. You can climb up and overview into our Wex pit. And then our final one is as you exit on Victor or approach Victor, depending on which direction you're coming from here, is the Little Grouse Trailhead. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Allison.
Great, thank you, Megan. Allison Boy, Interim General Manager. Thank you. All right, so we're going to cover a few different things in our business update today. The first one is the General Manager transition. Our new General Manager, Lori Smith, will be starting on Monday. So unfortunately, the timing didn't quite work for her to make it to introduce her at this meeting. But she will be at the next community events and then of course at the next city council meeting. Lori Smith is an experienced manager. She's been in the mining industry for over 20 years now. She graduated originally from the University of Missouri-Rolla. And she has spent about half her career in mining in the United States and more recently about 10 years in Australia. So she's relocating back to the US after a fairly extended stay overseas. So we're really excited to have her on site and excited for everyone here to meet her in the near future. A few of the other updates we'll be presenting today. We'll have Philip talking about autonomous haulage. Megan's going to update us on blasting. And then Katie is going to be presenting on water, as well as the Community Investment Fund and the Social Impact Study. So we're pretty excited about all of our updates today. So I will turn it over to Philip now.
Good evening, everybody. As mentioned, I'm Philip Tinoco, the project manager for autonomy at CC&V. I put this slide on here just so that you all kind of had a background about autonomous haulage. While I'm new to Newmont, about 4 months now, I have been working with Caterpillar. I had been working with Caterpillar prior for about 10 years, so I very much was part of the almost 5 billion safe tons that have been hauled with autonomous trucks around the world. I think I was probably at least partially involved with about maybe 50 to 60 of those command trucks around the world. And yeah, I've been sort of working in that command space for 9+ years, all in which that product has incurred 0 lost time injuries and has safely traveled 174+ million kilometers. And then as of now, there's about 18 operating sites, I think 19 as of last week, with this product around the world. Slide, please. This is kind of just an update on what's happened in the AHS deployment space since I started at CCNV in May. So obviously they've onboarded and introduced me to CCNV in the beginning part of May. In June last month, of June and July, we added 3 project readiness individuals to the Command for Hauling project at CCNV, all of which are current and existing CCNV employees, which is sort of what we're trying to continue down the process as we need to introduce additional roles at CCNV. Our intent is to continue down that path of retraining and developing our talent that calls Teller County home. Into 2023, our plan is to introduce additional roles, upskill our current operational operators. We're going to change network roles as we deploy an LTE network on site. Obviously, with that will come potential increased security, trainers, and safety. So that's all kind of the plan in 2023. Missed one slide there, but I can speak to it.
Please feel free to elaborate.
So just so you all know, it is sort of about, I'd probably say, a 18 to 24 month sort of project from start to finish. We are intending to convert our existing fleet, so no addition of additional mining units. We actually will take on a retrofitted machine and actually basically use our existing haulage fleet, just adding all the bells and whistles that is autonomous. So I'll have this point. Any questions? Absolutely.
Yes. My name's Patrick Lyons. I go
Second home VRBO at 511 East Golden. Me and my wife do. But we're made the scapegoats for, a rental housing shortage here. But you have Newmont is completely, expanded their business a lot in the past couple of years. We can all agree on that. And why aren't they building a man camp on their site? I see nothing up there about a man camp and to, house their employees. Because a lot of their employees are taking up these rental properties. And they could even put an RV park. Some of the employees might have RVs. And that solve a lot of the housing problem right there. But instead, you guys are coming after the VRBOs. I don't get it. We're not going to we're not going to stop being a VRBO and all of a sudden rent out to people. We don't want our house trashed. Okay.
All right, thank you.
All right, so just a quick update on blasting, and we're going to go fairly brief on here. There's not a lot of news on the Cripple Creek side. We will have some more in-depth engagement in our community meetings with regards to some potential expansions in the near future in the Victor side. But as you well know, we have continued to mine in Globe and Schist Island. If you want to go ahead there. So just want to remind everybody that we continue to work with our blast team extensively to minimize the mining and blasting impacts to the local community. One of the biggest aspects is the vibratory patterns. And fortunately for those of us who lived on the west side, it's pretty minimal, but for those who live on the east side, it can be felt. And so we do whatever we can to communicate. So if that's a conversation you want to have, hi, I'm here for you, and we can definitely do that, engage in that. So our main
issue or our main objective is to make sure that those PPV vibrations are as minimized as possible. Obviously, that does create some complications with our production, but we're happy to do that in order to make sure that our residents and our external properties are kept safe and made whole. So through feedback from the Sustainability and External Relations Department, Mine Operations keeps local stakeholder concerns at the forefront. So when you email me and you say, hey, that wasn't good, or we get feedback from the city of Cripple Creek, we definitely make sure that we socialize that internally and we speak on that continually with our mine operations and engineer teams to minimize, again, that impact wherever possible. We're navigating safe collapse of historical underground workings. And so that presents a lot of unique challenges for us and do a lot of long-term, months-long planning discussion into our daily operations. So just want to remind you that. And if, again, you have any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out. All right, I'll turn it over. Katie.
Good evening, Council. I am Katie Blake, Sustainability and External Relations Manager at CC&V. Thanks for having us tonight. I'm going to be covering a quick water update for you all this evening. If you want to switch to the next slide, please. So CC&V brings water to site via 2 pipelines. So Bull Hill 1 and Bull Hill 2. Pipelines. Water from the city of Cripple Creek, the city of Victor, and Colorado Springs utilities can be brought to site with this infrastructure. So the map here shows the pipelines in blue with those locations of the water sources marked in the yellow thumbtacks there. For this year, CC&V has averaged 761 gallons per minute, or GPM, as noted here on the slide. Brought to site for mine operations use. You can see the graph here shows that our current water usage annually is about 1,250 acre feet. CC&V works to improve efficiencies and reduce water usage at the mine site through implementation of new operating models, improved technology, like Philip spoke to earlier, and innovative engineering to reduce the site water need. A good example of this usage of surface is of this, improvement is surface amendments to dust control in order to use less water on roadways across the mine site. Over the last 5 or so years, we have had nearly a 30% reduction in water usage year over year. So you can see on the graph here, it's dipped in recent years, just based on improvements that we've made. We do collaborate with our local stakeholders, including you all, to integrate local water risks and impacts to our strategy to collaborate with everyone for improving water quality and access. Taking this into consideration, we take action with local stakeholders within the watershed, and I'll speak to that a bit more on the next slide. So water maturity at CC&V incorporates considerations that can be grouped into 4 categories, as you can see here in the spider diagram. So you'll notice at the top right, item 1, excuse me, I skipped ahead. The area in yellow that you can see here is our current state in time in relation to each representative category. The line in red represents our water maturity goal for all of those representative categories. So over the next several years, what we're looking to do is expand the yellow, where we currently are, into the red space to improve water efficiency. Each year, we develop an annual water action plan with objectives which correlate to our water maturity categories to improve our water maturity at site, bringing us closer to these goals. Goal categories can be grouped into 4 different sections. So water management on the top right, watershed-based management on the bottom right, water stewardship on the bottom left, and water innovation. So within those 4 subcategories, we have many other considerations that we're thinking about in our water maturity model at CC&V. Some of the objectives this year include working with Trout Unlimited on stream restoration And Caitlin here will speak to an annual donation that we make to that organization each year to support that stream restoration. We also evaluate how to increase surface amendments for dust control, like I spoke to on the prior slide. Improving efficiencies at our facilities to reduce water usage. So making sure that everything is completely closed loop and looking to reduce evaporation. And working with local partners on infrastructure to improve water availability and quantity. Additionally, CCNV actively collaborates with the Colorado Water Congress, Arkansas River Basin Roundtable as part of the Colorado Water Conservation Board. And that's my water update. I will pass it off to Caitlin. Thank you.
Hi, Mayor, hi, City Council. My name is Caitlin Ragsdale. I'm one of the Sustainability and External Relations representatives from CCNB. Thank you. So our 2021 taxes and royalties contribution report is available on our website. You can go to newmont.com and there's a link there that will take you to read the full report. This is just United States, so this includes Denver, our Denver operation, and we have a Miami office that is our South America corporate office. So CCNB does not have 1,082 employees. That's for all of the United States. Go ahead and go to the next slide, please. Thank you. So some of our community investments. So one of my areas of responsibility is managing our community investment fund. Through Q3, we had 63 applications totaling over $1 million. 41 applications of those were approved, totaling just over $192,000. We have annual school grant funding for $60,000 that supports the Teller and Fremont County school districts. As Katie mentioned, we donate $50,000 every year to Trout Unlimited, which works with that Colorado Abandoned Mine Reclamation Program. As you know, in 2020, we established the COVID Fund, and in 2022, we've donated $87,000 so far, and that's $715,000 total locally since 2020. $40,000 to community partnership, $45,000 to Aspen Mine Center, and then $2,000 to the Cripple Creek and Victor School District Teacher Appreciation Breakfast. We also have our Legacy Fund, which is our employee giving program. In Q1, we made contributions totaling over $23,000, and in Q2, they totaled over $25,000. As some of you may know, we have started our social impact assessment update for 2022. This is something we update every 5 years. Acorn International and Impact Advisory was our third party contractor that we hired. They began desktop research in June and conducted more than 45 interviews in early August. Their focus was on community and stakeholder perception of Newmont, Cripple Creek, and Victor's activities and presence, potential social impacts of those activities on the host communities, primarily Cripple Creek and Victor, and then potentially feasible mitigation strategies and supporting communication strategies. We anticipate the draft report by next week. We'll review that, send it back with our comments, and the final report is expected in mid-November, and that will be made publicly available. Any questions?
Yeah, good. Yeah, I do. I have as usual. I'll make it quick. Addressing this individual back here, your question. Could you? No, I just want.
I'm really curious why you guys don't have a man count.
No. Oh, wait.
Question?
No. What I would like Newmont to do is you have the breakdown of how many people your employees, your total employees, how many live in Cripple Creek, how many live in Victor. You have that, you have the numbers or.
So when our social impact assessment is released later this year, that will break down the current numbers of where all of our employees reside. Primarily, they do live in Teller County, but we also have a large percentage of employees, don't quote me on this, I want to say about 25 or so that live in Fremont County as well.
Okay.
No, it's a small amount who actually live in Cripple Creek. a small percentage.
There's quite a few. Our daughter was the largest, I mean, she held the most property management here in the city, and she knows that there's quite a few. I can have her give you the exact number, when she's at work right now. But, the thing to me is that, it's such a large employer. You see people like the Wildwood. You see, I know there's another hotel that provide housing for their employees. I mean, and I know that there's a lot of man camps going on in these, in different mining areas.
No, I understand.
I've seen them. They're not really expensive housing. I mean, it can be done, but it's not being done. And it seems like we're being made the scapegoat.
Okay. Yeah, they know, and they will get you the information, sir. And my second question is on Gold Hill, which is also known as the Shit's Island Project. What is your depth that you're going down?
You always ask the hard question. I could, last time you asked the elevation, yell it too, and I was prepared to reiterate that.
What is the elevation?
Right, were you asking for like how much further down we're going or?
Yes.
The elevation is, so the schist island pit goes about another 330-ish feet.
Okay, are you leaving the benches? Are you is it benched where, from the viewpoint of Cook Creek?
Yep.
It will be, we'll see, it will still have the aspen and everything as you go down. Or are you taking it out?
So we have removed all of the trees that we
Okay.
need to bring.
Yeah, and then are you connecting? Are you connecting?
So our current pit design doesn't remove any more trees.
Okay, and last question, are you connecting Globe Hill project with the Wild Horse extension? Are you taking out the west wall of the Wild Horse extension?
Partially.
When does that start?
So the Globe Hill pit is being completed in 5 more phases, and we start taking the west wall of the west pit out in the phase 4. We're currently starting phase 3.
Okay.
So I know we joke about currently, things change, but I think we will start taking that out towards the latter half of next year.
Good, thank you.
Thank you.
And I guess maybe just to expand on that a bit, closure plans have not changed as far as, view shed backfilling, schist island, with BLF2 phase 3, and then the remaining portion in the view shed, and then, revegetating and planting trees in that area.
Thank you. We appreciate the update. All right, public hearing. I'll read the opening statement. I will now open the public hearing for the application for a variance request submitted by William M. Notice of this hearing has been given as required by the Cripple Creek Development Code, and copy of such notice and of the publisher's affidavit are hereby made a part of the record of this proceeding. The purpose of this hearing is considered for the variance for construction
Those T's are here.
of a third accessory building in the R3/4 zone district should be approved in consideration of the matter of hearing. Will address the approval standards and criteria set forth section 4.6.2 of the Cripple Creek Development Code. The procedures will be as follows. City staff will present summarized case. The applicant will, a representative may present any evidence in favor of the granting of the application. At the conclusion of the application, the case, any person wishing to speak for the application may present evidence. Fourth, Any person wishing to speak against the application may then present evidence. And fifth, I will ask for a motion closing public comment. Six, the applicant may then request may then present any rebuttal evidence. All presenters and witnesses will identify themselves and provide their address before speaking. All statements and testimony shall be addressed to the council and not to the applicant. At the conclusion of the hearing, the city council will reconvene and will deliberate and then make a decision on the application. The council may grant any application, deny any application, or grant any application with conditions. Are there any objection to the jurisdiction of the planning commission or the city council to the form of this substance of these proceedings? Hearing none, staff will present the case on consideration resolution 2022-28 for a request for William Dennett for variance to develop the development code to construction of a third accessory building in the R3/4 zone district where only one accessory building is currently allowed on real property legally described as lot 32 through 35, block 3, Gold Valley addition, also known as 349 West Bennett Avenue. Colorado. Ken?
Yes, good evening, Mayor, Council. This is a request to construct a storage building on property located at the west end of Bennett at C Street in the northeast corner. And we've got a site plan there. The basic issue for the request for variance is that the development code allows for accessory buildings such as garages, sheds, to be accessory to a primary building, a house. So on this particular property, if we can go to the next slide. Here's the next slide. The current property has a house, a garage to the northeast, and a shed to the northwest. In the middle between the house and the shed, the applicant's proposing to build a 20 by 30 structure for storage. You go to the next. And that structure, the picture of it later on, is a fabric structure. This gives an aerial view showing Bennett Avenue, C Street, the location of the existing house and other structures. There's alley to the north. The property is fenced on the west, north, and east sides with a privacy fence. Two issues. The development code allows for the construction of one accessory structure. There's already two accessory structures on the property. Now, the house and the two existing structures were constructed prior to the implementation of the new development code. So they predate 1930s, that era, and before turn of the century for the one older storage building. So the development code does not allow for more than one accessory structure currently. The second issue is the size. The proposed structure, 600 square feet. The existing house is roughly 850 square feet. So the proposed structure is more than the allowed 50% of the house. So the development code allows auxiliary structures that are 50% or less in square foot of the house. So the applicant's asking for the larger structure, 600 square feet, and a third structure on his property. Next picture. And a couple pictures, I guess they don't show up real well here. From south on C Street, you'll see the house. The house will block any view of the proposed structure. And then the other picture is looking south, southeast on C Street. And there is a 6-foot privacy fence and also would obscure any visual impact the proposed structure will have. Next picture. And here's a typical picture of the structure that's proposed. It's fabric with the bar joists coming across and supporting it. So there are certain 7 criteria we're supposed to look at for reviewing a variance. Does it provide a benefit to the community? And are there unique characteristics on the site that was not anticipated when the development code was written? Benefits to the community are somewhat limited in that it serves the individual, and how that expands out to the community is open for interpretation. Unique characteristics, oftentimes this addresses odd-shaped lots, steep lots. They have not demonstrated any unique characteristics that would not have been anticipated by the ordinance. The proposed development will not overburden the infrastructure. Will not be detrimental to adjacent uses. It meets or exceeds the zoning standards, with the exception of this being a third building. It meets all the setbacks, codes, heights, and all those type items. And it does not compromise adjacent zoning. Again, no real impact on adjacent properties. The existing code created a burden and it's not. But the existing codes create a burden that is not in the city's interest. So by implementing, not allowing the third structure, is it a burden into the city's interest? I don't think the city has a real interest on whether he constructs that or not. And so it's not a burden on the city by not allowing that structure to move forward. So of the 7 items, there are the first and last items are not fully supported. And based on that, I recommend denial of the application. And just as a note, 4 votes will be required for approval of variances. Are there any questions the councilor may or may have?
Well, Ken, I'm sorry. I have one question. When this was instituted originally, the code,
yes,
this was based against lots that were 25 by 120. Is that correct?
That's unclear. I mean, the typical lot here is 25 by 125,
Right.
and this parcel is 100 by 125. So it does comprise of 4 lots. So when the ordinance was passed, we had the basic small lot from historic, and plus other lots which are obviously larger today.
Thank you.
Okay, at this time, the applicant may present its evident in favor of granting the application. Good evening.
Good evening, Council, Mayor. I'm William Diamond. I'm at 349 West Bennett Avenue. As you saw, the last house on Bennett Avenue down here. As Ken pointed out, there's the house in one corner. There's the old barn from the 1930s in another corner. And then there's the old shed in the third corner that I'm repairing at this point, that I'm restoring at this point. The barn, frankly, was never intended as a garage and doesn't work as a garage. I can barely get the tractor or, that sort of thing in there, and it doesn't have car doors on it. So the purpose of the hoop shed, of wanting to erect the hoop shed behind the house, which is what it is, a hoop shed, is to have off-street parking and have covered parking, have a garage, have an actual coverage for our cars, and my poor wife has a place to put her car in the wintertime. And that's really the gist of it right there, is erect a hoop shed so that we can have, and the benefit to the community is that I can get my cars off the street. I have no off-street parking, so we have to park right there on Bennett Avenue. The benefit to the community is there that we don't have cars on the street. And again, as far as the third structure goes, I contend that, those other structures are useless as a garage, and that's what I'm asking for. As a carport is really what I want. A carport is all I'm asking for. And I believe that's all I have to comment on in this particular instance.
Anyone wishing to speak in support of this application?
My name's Tom Panetta and Mindy Everett. We own the property at 3020 West Bennett, which is east of him on the other side of the road where he has that big parcel of field. And we have no problem that he has a place to put his tractor because, you know, he takes care of that property real well. And that's what we think he should be able to do that because it's not going to be a hurt to the city or anything. He takes real good care of it. And that's how we feel about it. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak in support?
Yeah, the next, please. Thank you. I'm Kathy Pilcher, 315 West Masonic. We've been there 31 years. I strongly oppose to giving the variance only because it's the who.
Anybody wishing to speak in favor of it?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Were you in favor?
My name is Mindy Everett. I own the property at 320 West Bennett. I'm a neighbor of his and I approve. I hope he can put that hoop shed on his property to take his cars off the streets. It would enable him to live a better life. It's not harming anyone. He has a privacy fence up. There's nothing wrong with being able to take care of your equipment, your home, your wife, your car. You know, I just don't see where that would hinder the city any at all. That's my opinion. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak in support?
My name is Howard McNair. I live at 137 West Carr. And I've seen what Will's doing to his home and his property. He's really improved it dramatically. He's completely rebuilt the interior of the home, brought it up to standards. The old, what you call a garage on the back corner right side, really is too small for a vehicle. And I had a garage like that at my home at 137 West Carr. I applied for a variance so that I could raise it up. It wasn't tall enough to bring a truck into the garage. And I was granted that variance. I just don't see why we wouldn't want to support a good neighbor, a good citizen, someone that's really beautifying our city. He's taking an old property and making it new again. He's rebuilt the old donkey stable and it looks just rock solid. He's regrouted, tuck pointed, built a new roof on it. And I mean, he's really brought everything back to life the way it used to be. And by God, we need to take care of people like this, I think. And so I fully support the city, granting the variance and I would be shocked if you don't. That's my comment.
All right,
Thank you.
Ellen Moore, 210 North 3rd Street. I completely agree and would propose that you approve this. He has done an exceptional job on that property over the past, how many years have you owned it, Willie?
6 years.
6 years. Drastic improvement is out there all the time. The property looks terrific. I don't think this is a risk to the neighborhood. And I would agree with everyone else that this is someone we would like to support because we want to encourage this type of care of our properties. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else speak in support?
Yes, hi, I'm Jim Grimes. Mr. Devitt's my next door neighbor.
What's your address?
Pardon me?
Address?
400 West Bennett Avenue. And the property that he's got, he's taken very good care of. I have no problem. He's an excellent neighbor, and anything that can help him would be okay with me. And I have many questions to address the council, but I'll wait till the very end. So I hope everyone else stays and listens to what I have to say. Thank you.
Anyone else speak in support? Anyone wishing to speak against the application?
Kathy Pilcher, 315 West Masonic Avenue. am strongly against the variance that he could put a hoop building there. Even though I've met him once before and he keeps the area very nice, I'm 100% all on board with that. I just don't think the hoop building is the appropriate kind of building that should go there. His cute little house, his yard, all those buildings there. And even the house across the C Street from it. If he would build some kind of wooden building that would go with those others, it would look very nice down there. I'm just concerned with the hoop building and how long it might stay, that it doesn't look good like the other buildings, and to think of the historic part and what that area in the past was full of wooden buildings. I don't know why he's choosing that kind of building. And I don't know why everybody thinks that it's gonna look so great. I think it's gonna look awful. I mean, these are friends and people I know for the most part, but I just don't think that's the appropriate building to put on that corner, whatever he puts in his area. But I just don't think that's gonna look good and that we should start allowing that kind of a building. And there'll be more and more, it always happens. As soon as you let somebody do that, more of them do. And I really thank him for keeping it up and all that nice stuff too. But I just don't understand how or why you would allow that kind of building there.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak against the applicant? If not, then I will ask for a motion to close the public comment.
A motion to close the public comment.
I'll second.
Vote please.
Councilman Solomon,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Lowland,
Yes.
Councilwoman Trenary,
Yes.
Councilman Green,
Yes.
Mayor Ashby.
Yes. This time the applicant may present any rebuttal evidence.
I'm not sure good evening, William Diamond again. I'm not sure I understand what that means. What information would you like from me?
Any other evidence you'd like to tell us about why you want to do this? I think you covered it pretty well.
No, I think we've got her here.
Okay.
What's that?
Thank you.
Oh, yeah, I understand the dislike for the hoop shed. I do understand that, ma'am. But on this particular variance request, the hoop shed's gonna be behind the house, behind the fence. I'm sorry, my apologies. In this particular instance, the hoop shed will be behind the house, behind the fence, and on the other side of the aspen grove, and for all intents and purposes, invisible from the street. So as far as the design goes, and as far as using the hoop shed, I feel old man Winter's breath on my neck right now. And that was part of the consideration, is it will be, easy to erect, and we'll be able to keep things out of the weather. We got a long winter coming up. And I'm amenable in the future to putting in a full garage back there. And make it bright and make it red, just like the barn and everything else. So I think that's all I can say. Thank you for your time. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
May I ask him a question?
Oh, you questioned the council.
Well, Debbie Bishop, I have a house at 303 Masonic. So is this variance for one shed or two?
And I have two variances I'm requesting. This is the first one that goes behind the house and will be pretty much out of sight.
I was confused.
Right, and then I believe that we'll address the second variance here in a moment.
I have a question.
My name's Howard McNair, 137 West Carr. And my question, after hearing the dialogue of the many people, is Mrs. Pilcher is saying that she doesn't want this unsightly building on Will's property and feels that the city should turn it down, but hoop garages or carports are all over town. They're acceptable, aren't they?
Yeah, but public comment is over.
I didn't realize that.
That's okay. Thank you. Okay, at the closing of the hearing, the city council will reconvene. Deliberate to make a decision at this time. Make a motion for the council to reconvene.
I make a motion that council reconvenes.
Second.
Vote please.
Councilman Green,
Yes.
Councilwoman Trenary,
Yes.
Councilman Solomani,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Litterland,
Yes.
Mayor Ashworth.
Yes. Okay, the council may deliberate on this application this time.
I just have a question to ask the attorney. Never mind, I'll ask it later. Go ahead. I have nothing. To say.
Okay. Do I hear a motion? Consider resolution 2022-28.
I motion that we approve the variance in this particular case. I really based against the location and the fact that there are a number, we're not dealing with just one lot, and we're not trying to cram a bunch of buildings together. I see no reason that we should not approve this variance.
So the motion would be to approve a variance, and because the resolution has been
Yes.
supplied, it would be to approve resolution number 2022.
What she said.
Okay, so just so the record is clear, the motion would be to approve resolution number 2022-28, which approves the variance.
Exactly.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'll second it. Vote please.
Mayor Pro Tem Litterland,
Yes.
Councilman Solomani,
Yes.
Councilwoman Trenary,
Yes.
Councilman Green,
Yes.
Mayor Ashworth.
Yes. Okay. Consider resolution 2022-29. For request of William Emmett for variance to the development code for the construction of a storage building in R 3/4 zone where there's no other buildings have been construction, and proposed building cannot be considered for accessory building on certain real property described as lot 13, 44, block 4, Low Valley Edition, Colorado. At this time, we will go back into
This is my question. Excuse me. Sorry. Does he have to read through all that, or can we just vote on it to go into a plan?
We gotta go back to planning.
Yeah. Can we just vote on it without him reading the whole thing?
Yes, and in fact, I think the mayor intends not to read the whole thing.
Okay.
I think he's just gonna
I'll read it later.
refer to what he read before.
That
Thank
was
you.
my question.
Good question, and that is very practical approach.
Yes, and the rules of procedure will be the same as previous request. Okay, Ken.
Yes, Mayor, council members. This is a second variance requested by William Dement. And he has the property on the south side of Bennett at C Street also, and it continues down to Masonic. So that whole large area is owned by the applicant. The request on this case is for a similar, almost identical building to be placed on the property south of Bennett for storage of agriculture or equipment, tractors and that type of thing for the maintenance of that property. The next slide. As you can see, Bennett running east-west is the house, the property just talked about to the north in the square. And then the proposed location of a similar structure as before, 20 feet off Bennett and 35 feet off C Street. Next slide, please. And then the aerial view showing the extent of the property he owns. There's an alley running east-west between Bennett and north of Masonic, and the proposed location of that shed. Next. A couple pictures showing that property. Where the tractor sits, the basic location of that proposed shed, and then you have some. He does have the materials for the construction, and he has it laid out in the second picture. Next. And once again, the same picture as before, same pole structure as before. We have the same criteria for reviewing this project. As the benefit to the community, and are there unique characteristics of the site that were not anticipated when the ordinance was passed and established. Let's see, it is a larger lot than properties, and quite honestly, I don't know the total count of the 25 by 125. It's roughly 15 and another 10. So it is a large parcel. And so, but there are no, the only unique characteristics is probably the floodplain area. And where he's proposing to construct this is the one portion of the property which is outside that floodplain. So the location is somewhat dictated by that unique characteristics. Otherwise, it's a flat level open property and with no real unique characteristics otherwise. Again, it will not overburden the infrastructure. It's not detrimental to adjacent uses. It does meet the zoning provisions with this exception. And I guess I need to touch on what that exception is, but going through this does not compromise adjacent zoning. The exception, the code, this is again considered for residential property and accessory structure. So typically you can have a house, and this provision of the code allows for the construction of a garage or storage shed adjacent to that house. What he's asking is the ability to build a storage structure on residential property without a house. This is one concern I have, is that is this setting a direction the city wants to encourage the building of storage structures on residential property rather than the development of residences on residential property, and then an accessory, put a garage or a storage shed to support living in that house. So does this create a burden to the city? And it's not in the city's interest. Does the city want to build storage structures on residential property without houses? That's the basic question. So the code requires a house before you can build a storage structure. He's asking to build a storage structure without the house. And that's the essence of that. Again, 4 votes are required for approval on variances, and open council, and mayor has any questions.
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
Is that not in floodplain?
Can you go back on those pictures? One more. I guess I didn't include the county assessors. Basically, the property is in the floodplain. There's one corner at the northwest corner where his proposed structure is outside of that floodplain. So the properties are, but the proposed location is not.
I guess my question is, you know, if the majority of that property is in floodplain, you wouldn't be able to build a home there anyhow, so.
Without special provisions, correct.
Anybody else have any questions? Ken?
And this was represented as a unit that was gonna be used to store some maintenance equipment, is that correct?
Yes, my basic understanding is that this will, the earlier picture did show some tractors and some equipment so that he could maintain that large parcel, mow the weeds and keep it graded as necessary. So it was expressed that this would be used for the storage of that equipment.
What type of structure was it gonna be?
It's the same structure as before. It's the hoop shed, as exampled by this picture. Same dimensions, 20 by 30, basically an identical type building as in the previous case.
Ken, I'm sure it's probably just a typo. In your presentation and everything, it's represented as a 600 square foot building.
Yes.
In the actual resolution that Milford will sign or not sign, however we vote. In the first whereas, second line, it says a 200 square foot. So we'll need to.
I
make a
appreciate your
correction.
attention to the detail. That is my mistake. It should be a 600 square foot structure.
So we'll need to make that correction on motion.
Okay, Ken. At this time, I may present evidence in favor of granting this application.
Good evening again. Division 9, 349 West Bennett again. The property there, as you mentioned, is mostly floodplain, except for the one little corner where I want to put the structure. So I can't build a house, and if I can't build a house, technically I'm not supposed to have a secondary structure. So what Ken said is absolutely true. I'm trying to not, put a storage shelter there for the equipment that I use to upkeep the property. And today was mowing day, as a matter of fact. And so I've got the tractor, I've got the mower and stuff like that, that rather than just park it out, and it's been out there. If you've driven by, if anyone's driven by, you've seen. And where I've got the tractor and the equipment parked out in the field, and that's exactly where the shed would go. And it would be a lot nicer than just leaving the equipment out in the field. And I think the neighbors would probably prefer to look at that sort of thing. So essentially, I have no place to put any of the equipment that I keep up, that I use to keep up that property, and it's in the benefit. I mean, it's definitely a benefit to the city for me to keep mowing that thing. I mean, everyone knows what it's looked like in the past. So I believe that's all I have to say. I think there is a benefit to everyone.
I have a question.
Sure.
Will the group prohibited to put up a rectangular shaped building?
Negative. I am willing to compromise, to work with city council on what you guys might want. I kind of like the idea of putting up a rectangular building that's painted red with white trim, just like my house. That's the other, and I did mean to mention that too. That's the other unique factor, a unique characteristic of requesting this variance, is that while there is no house there, 25 feet away across the street, there's my house. And I'll be looking directly at that shed across the street all the time. Keep an eye on it and that sort of thing. But as far as the rectangular building goes, I really have no problem with that. But what I'd like to do would be to put up the hoop shed for the winter and then build a regular garage probably next summer. When the weather breaks.
Your intention here is to use this as a temporary shelter for the equipment.
Yep, at least for this winter. You have to get through this winter. And then if city council or Ken or really anyone thinks that I should be, it doesn't look good, it's junk, that sort of thing, will they tear it down and build a garage? I'm more than happy to do that. I think.
Was that a stipulation we can put in?
Yes, especially since the applicant has volunteered to agree with that stipulation.
Sure, yeah, sure. If I can get through the winter this year, and if council wants me to, if council directs me to change out the building, I can do that. And I will do that. Ms. Smith, is that?
Yes, I appreciate you making that very clear for the record. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I think that's all I have, gentlemen. Thank you.
Anyone want to speak in favor of the application? In support of it?
Hi, my name's Mindy Everett, I'm Tom
Tom, yeah.
Panetta. We live at the 320 West Bennett, know that property. Every day this guy's out there cleaning up that land, and I have to greatly appreciate that. You take care of your land takes care of you. That's the way I was raised. And there's a lot of places around here that don't, but he does, and he's out there even this morning spraying for thistles and stuff. Even on my side of the fence, while I'm trying to clean up years of neglect, he's helping me out spraying those, and I just think he takes care of everything. We should at least grant him the variance to be able to take care of the equipment he uses constantly to take care of that.
And
That's,
we see directly, it's right out our front porch. Father has done, if he has a food shed there to keep everything under. Like I say, there's a garage there, that's fine too. You see it right out there, we're fine. We're the ones looking right out our front porch right there.
that's all I have to say.
Thank you.
There are things called farm raising.
Anyone wishing to speak against application?
Kathy Pilcher, 315 West Masonic. So what I got in the mail from the city of Cripple Creek makes it sound like this is all one issue and one thing to vote on. And what I got from Mr. Dement was talking about 2 20 by 30 hoop sheds. He does list the 2 separate addresses, so nothing. I didn't realize without a agenda that there was 2 things to vote on. So that's what I was speaking of, is in this lot we're talking about now, to have the hoop building, I'm totally against. That's why I was suggesting a nice building like his house, or the gray one on the other corner. That would look nice. It would be something that could stay there and look nice. So I'm not the bad guy. I like everybody. I love that whole area. I love what he's doing. I just don't think a hoop building and it's gonna, don't put it up, just put the nicer stick building to start with. That's what I think.
Anyone else wishing to speak against the applicant? All right, this time I ask for a motion to close the public comment.
I motion we close the public comment.
Second. Vote please.
Councilman Green,
Yes.
Councilman Solomon,
Yes.
Councilwoman Trenary,
Yes,
Mayor Pro Tem Wildland,
Yes.
Mayor Ashford.
Yes. Okay, the applicant may present any rebuttal evidence that you would like.
I don't, thank you again, council. I don't think I have anything more to add at this particular time. Thank you very much for your time. I very much appreciate
Thank
it.
you. This time, I would ask council will reconvene and deliberate, make a decision. Motion reconvene.
motion to reconvene.
Second.
Vote please.
Councilman Green,
Yes.
Councilman Solomon,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Wildland,
Yes.
Councilwoman Trenary,
Yes,
Mayor Ashford.
Yes. Okay, council, deliberation. Anybody have anything to add? I guess you're right. Put conditions to.
I'll go ahead and make it.
Yes.
I make the motion that we approve resolution 2022-29, request for variance with the condition that come spring, when ground allows construction of a permanent building, that Mr. Dement starts construction on that building. Also, make a correction to paragraph 1 of the resolution that now reads 200 square foot, changing it to 600 square foot.
I'll second.
Vote please.
Councilman Green,
Yes.
Councilman Solomon,
Yes.
Councilwoman Trenary,
Yes,
Mayor Pro Tem Wildland,
Yes.
Mayor Ashford.
Yes.
amen.
We'll have a 5-minute recess at this time. It's so- into
Whole number of programs.
we were reconvened in public hearing signing commission this time. Consider resolution 2022-27, the request for Maurice and Rose Woods to modify conditional use permit to construct residential dwelling units in the C1 zone district at certain real property legally described as block 6A and 10A, block 5, Cripple Creek, first edition, Cripple Creek, also known as 309 South Second Street and 107 East Main Street, Cripple Creek, Colorado. Ken?
Yes, good evening. Ken Hartsville, Planning Department. Maurice Woods, along with James Cole, had a conditional use permit for properties on South Second Street. We have a site plan in process. And there were some dimensional changes that are being requested so that we can move forward with the construction of those 5 houses on that property. Again, yeah, I guess the next slide. So the ones in particular are the 309 South Second and the 107 East Main. Next slide. This is the 309 South Main. The house has been constructed. It's finishing up construction on that. And we'll talk about some of the confusion on the placement of the house in a moment. And then next slide, this is the 107 East Main. And take note of the tree location of that, which comes into play in the placement of the house. Next slide. This is the original CUP document that was approved. And the houses for lots 4 and 5 was 10 foot from the Second Street property line. And the same for lots 10 and 11, which is the 107 May Street, was 10 feet from South Second Street. They are proposing changes to the one on May and Second Street, primarily because of the location of that large tree. Wanting to keep that in place, they're proposing to move that house back 33 feet from Second Street. And the excavation has been completed for that foundation to date. So they're asking for a change on that property. On what's shown here is lots 4 and 5. The house was actually constructed 7 feet from South Second Street. So this is a request to allow that house to be placed where it has been constructed. Confusion on this is a conditional use permit in the C1 zoning district. And as such, there are no dimensional standards for the placements of the buildings, setbacks, front yard, rear yard. And so they come forward with this conditional use permit and ask for what they would like to do. And this represents what was proposed. The confusion is in the R zoning districts within the city. There's a clause in the front setback, which gives you a 3-foot variance so that you can align with existing houses on the street. So it gives you a solid front, a little variation, basically aligning with that. So if you look at the house at lots 2 and 3, that's an existing brick structure, historic structure. And that is actually 7 feet from the street, not the 10 feet shown on this document. So when the house was constructed, it was brought forward to align with that house. Hence the confusion and technically the misplacement of the house, but a reasonable understanding how we got there. So next slide. Again, this just shows dimensionally standards. Everything remains the same. We're putting a 7-foot setback to the main building with the porch put on the front, which was a condition of the original conditional use permit. And then you can see the 33-foot setback on East May Street, and again, the tree location prompting that relocation. I think that's all I have on this. So any questions that the council may have, I'd be glad to address that.
On the East May Street, they're going to be facing May Street, is that correct?
The front entrance of that house does face May.
Okay.
And that's why the porch is on
Okay, I
the
just want
south
to
side.
clarify.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The Woods are not here, but James Cole is in attendance. If there's any questions, he's the contractor for the project and the applicant on the original conditional use permit.
Okay. Applicant have any evidence in favor of this? Granting this application?
My name is James Cole, I'm the general contractor in charge of this project. He added everything to it. There was just a 3-foot difference in the setback.
Any other question?
No.
Anyone wishing to speak in support of the application? Any person wanting to speak against the application? I'll ask for closing motion, motion closing the public comment.
No motion, we close public comment.
I will second.
Vote please.
Mayor Pro Tem Littleham,
Yes.
Councilman Green,
Yes.
Councilwoman Trenary,
Yes.
Councilman Solomon.
Yes.
Mayor Ashford.
Yes. Evidently won't be any rebuttal. At the conclusion of the hearing, council will reconvene. Motion to reconvene council.
So moved. Second.
Vote please.
Councilman Solomon.
Yes.
Councilman Trenary,
Yes.
Councilman Green,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Littleham,
Yes.
Mayor Ashford.
Yes. Do I hear a motion to consider resolution 2022-27?
I motion we approve resolution 2022-27.
Second.
Vote please.
Councilman Solomon,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Littleham,
Yes.
Councilwoman Trenary,
Yes.
Councilman Green,
Yes.
Mayor Ashford.
Yes. Okay. New business. Approval to enter a lease agreement with Go Camp Victorian Society to store 3 storage sheds at the public works yards.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. This started probably the second or third week that I started in March. Had a meeting with the Victorian Society and came to my attention that buildings were out at the public works yard. The way that came up is they were told to get out of the Victorian Lake with very little, and that's because the chief, where did he go? The fire chief, which needed a house to live in. So it all kind of started this rolling. But when I found out that they had bought another storage building, put it out at the public works yard, which made 3, I asked if a council had given permission, and of course, no one knew. So city clerk did her research. We couldn't find anything that showed that there was any council approval for anybody using public land. So we started this process of drafting this agreement, and the Victorian Society was great to work with. I think we have an agreement that meets the city's needs and also their needs. It gives them at least 90 days notice if a future council wants them to move off. It addresses things like utilities, which there's no utilities to the buildings, but it also has things in there if things progress in the future and they need electricity. It addresses all those little issues. So there are a few things in the agreement that don't really relate to what they have right now, but it addresses future needs maybe. So I think they have voted on it on their board. Their president has signed it, and it's up to council and what you would like to do. Staff recommends approval. Questions?
Go ahead.
But I do have, not for you, Frank, but for, the city attorney. Number 17, non-appropriation. Will you please, in simple English, please explain that, what it means?
That's a requirement that we've been in all agreements to the extent that the town has any financial responsibilities, which it will not as a landlord, but Tabor requires that provision in the agreement.
Okay. Thank you.
Karen. There a motion approved, enter into a lease agreement with School Camp Victorian Society.
I move to approve the lease agreement with the Gold Camp Victorian Society for 3 storage sheds at the Public Works Yard.
Second. Vote please.
Councilwoman Janeri,
Yes.
Councilman Solomani,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Wildland,
Yes.
Councilman Green,
Yes.
Mayor Ashford.
Yes. All right, agenda item B, second reading to adopt ordinance 2022-09, an ordinance of city council for the city of Cripple Creek, Colorado. Extended temporary moratorium on opening and operating short-term rental and declaring an emergency. Jeff? No.
Yeah, Jeff Mosier, Special Projects Director, and you've had a chance to review this after the first reading. We are requesting that the moratorium be extended to allow time for the new ordinance to go into effect and not have a lag between the moratorium and the new ordinance for short-term rentals. Any questions?
Yeah, when can we expect to have that ordinance available?
You're voting on it
When
next.
do we have this done? This thing's been dragging on for 10 months.
You're voting on it next. It's letter C. So once it's gone through, it's going to take us time to get the notifications out.
Second reading.
Yeah, I know, but the question is, and I was against moratorium to begin with, but this thing's been dragging on forever. We need to get this thing done.
Well, if you adopt the ordinance tonight, then city clerk has to publish it in the newspaper, and then it has to take 30 days
Okay.
before the ordinance goes into effect.
Okay.
So that's why we put the moratorium extension is only to cover until the ordinance.
So
goes into effect.
we're 30 to 45 days. out.
Before it's
And the ordinance that you'll look at or consider is built in that the moratorium will be removed once that ordinance is passed. So.
Thank you, Jeff. There a motion to adopt ordinance 2022-09.
I'll make a motion that we adopt ordinance 2022-09, extending temporary moratorium on short-term rentals.
Anybody want to say? I'll second. Okay. So please.
Councilman Green,
Yes.
Councilwoman Janeri,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Wildland,
Yes.
Councilman Solomani.
Yes.
Mayor Ashford.
Yes. And item C, second reading to adopt ordinance 2022-10, an ordinance of the city of Cripple Creek, Colorado, amending chapter 6 of Cripple Creek Municipal Code to add a new article 10 related to short-term rental. Yep.
Yes, this is the short-term rental ordinance that we just discussed shortly. Hopefully you've had a chance to go through it again and any questions have been brought up. Staff does have one change that we would request, and that change will have to be included in your motion. And that's to section 6-10-30, the permit fees. That permit fee currently reads, the annual short-term rental permit shall be set by city council by resolution. It should read the annual short-term rental permit fee, non-refundable fee shall be set by city council by resolution. Non-refundable was not included, and that is something that is conditional on most business licenses. And we want to also include that in the short-term rental permit fee as well. It's a non-refundable fee, which means if you were to apply for a short-term rental, you're a new short-term rental, and you're going to apply and you fail your inspection, or you're going for a renewal, and it's every other year is the inspection and you fail your inspection, and you cannot rectify that, the reason for failing it, you would not get that money back once you pay that permit fee. So the inspection happens after they pay the fee, or any other reason that you may get turned down for a license. Other than that, the ordinance would be submitted as or voted on as submitted.
Mayor, there are quite a few people here, I think, that would like public comments on the ordinance, if you so choose to allow that.
Sure.
I did ask the city clerk to send out the ordinance to the ones that have a business license in the city, and so that they could see the ordinance. So they're probably here tonight wanting to address the council. So I think it would be good if council so chooses to allow them to speak.
This time we will allow. Yes.
I have a question on with along with having to be. Oh, I'm sorry, Patrick Lyons, 511 East Golden. Along with having the ordinance, we had to pay for city water. City water allows us up to 10,000 gallons a month of water use. And it goes along with having a business license, as you know. But we're paying for 10,000 gallons a month of water. Our monthly usage has never exceeded more than 800 gallons a month. And it seems like they're triple, quadruple dipping here. Because we're paying not on usage. We're allowed to use 10,000. I can open a water park in front of my house, and legally use that much water. But it just doesn't seem right to me that, you're digging into my pocket and, charging this fee for city water. And there's the real estate office next door to mine has a toilet and a sink. They pay city water. It just doesn't seem right. It should be on usage. That's all I got to say. Business water.
Thank you. Have any comment on that?
It's commercial water, so all businesses are paying commercial water, and the short-term rentals are considered businesses, so they are commercial water.
Falls under that tiered system in business.
But isn't it metered?
It is metered.
Yeah, but shouldn't they should pay for the action with the meter reads? The actual.
There's a minimum, I guess. Is that what it is? I wasn't here when you said. There's tiers set up, so there's a minimum.
Right, I understand that.
So you would have to change the ordinance.
I think this is a separate discussion.
Yeah, it's a utility
So
ordinance.
I think if we want to look into that, I've got a photography business. I use maybe 2,000 gallons of water a month, but I still pay the commercial use. That's a separate discussion that we can get into. But at this point, we're dealing with a different ordinance altogether. So I think we need to continue on with what we're doing now.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you, Mark.
My name's Carla Lyons, 511 East Golden. And the question about, for me, for the short-term rental ordinance, I never received any of the information, never got a letter, phone call, nothing about it. When the water changed to business water, my letter came after they said, oh, you owe a late fee because you're now on business water. Well, I never got anything from the city. So it seems like it's real quick to grab the money, but not so much to say, hey, business owner, we want to work with you. Here's what's coming your way. I don't even know what the ordinance is you're talking about.
Well, my question is you're talking about your business.
My business, my short-term rental, but I
you
never.
But you do get a water bill.
Oh, I pay it, believe me.
Well, I understand. My
Right.
point is when you got your business license.
It
and
was
you're in
still on city
commercial
water.
district, did you not check?
No, I've had my short-term rental for over 3 years.
Okay.
I paid city water at that point. Then all of a sudden, this change happened, which I had no knowledge of. Got a letter after saying, oh, not only do you owe $100, but you owe a late fee because you didn't pay. Well, I didn't know. You guys didn't send me anything. Registered, unregistered, I don't know however you send your mail. Also, this ordinance that we're speaking of, I know zero about it. And I've had a short-term rental for over 3 years. The only way I knew about it was word of mouth in town. Did you hear about the ordinance? I'm like, I have no idea what it's about. Nobody ever shared it with me, sent me any letters, email. You've got my email, my phone number, my business address in Las Vegas. I'm a business owner there. This isn't how we do business. You don't find out when you're sitting in a council meeting that they're going to do something with your business. There's really a lack of respect there, in my opinion, that, you know, let's just ramrod over you guys and, you know, good luck with your business after the fact. So I don't know what this, even the second reading is. Never received anything about the first reading. So how can that be something that I can engage even in a conversation with you? I don't know.
This is all public information that's posted.
But you guys just said, there's a couple things. You just said that you were notified. The gentleman here said that. All of you that have short-term rental were notified. We weren't. We didn't get the mail.
About a month ago, the clerk's office mailed out
Mhm.
renewal or the updated ordinance.
Nope.
Copy of it.
Mhm.
My deputy
I sure
said
get
she
my water
remembered-
bills. I get my water bills, but I didn't get that.
Deputy said she remembers her paying first going out. We did not receive feedback on bad addresses or anything like that.
So my one, you remember,
Sorry,
you remember my one mailing.
I don't understand.
Well, the ordinance that was sent out, the
With
copy
the
of
letter
that,
informing
right?
you of the changes,
Mhm.
and there was a copy of the ordinance.
Never got it. Right.
Mayor was getting into
Okay.
argument. It's
Yeah.
not the
That's fine.
purpose.
Yeah.
If,
Let's move on.
if what we need to do is take time since they're here and let Jeff or I explain the ordinance. So that, because all we're talking about so far is the water meter. And they're not talking about the actual ordinance. So if we need to take time for staff to address again, the ordinance so that they'll know it's whether it affects them or doesn't affect them, then we'll be happy to do that, but that's your call.
I'd like to move on and you can have a meeting with them and explain and see where miscommunication has been. But we need to move on with the meeting now.
I just have one question, in regards to the ordinance, under section 6-10-118, administrative review appeal hearing. Says here, the city administrator shall appoint a hearing officer to hear and determine matters subject to appeal and determination. Are we using our municipal judges?
Yes, municipal court judge.
Okay.
It allows for in the future, if there's an issue, we could appoint someone different. But right now, that's our plan. That's what we're taking code enforcement. Administratively, we're taking them to the municipal court judge.
Thank you.
All right, do I hear a motion?
I'm going to move that we approve ordinance number 2022-10. Yes, with the stipulation that under permit fees 6-10-30, we add the wording that states the annual short-term rental permit non-refundable fee shall be set by the city council by resolution.
I will second.
Vote please.
Mayor Pro Tem Wildland,
Yes.
Councilman Solomani,
Yes.
Councilwoman Shamari,
Yes.
Councilman Green,
Yes.
Mayor Ashworth.
Yes. And item D, second reading to approve ordinance 2022-11, an ordinance submitting registered elected voting in a general coordinated election to be held November 8th, 2022. Ballot questions permitted to allow and taxing marijuana. Aaron?
Yes, Mayor and Council, this matter is before you because under state statute, once the petitioners have initiated for the allowing regulated marijuana in the city of Cripple Creek and taxing marijuana. Once that petition was submitted with the requisite amount of signatures, the council under state statute had to consider whether or not to pass that ordinance. The council decided not to pass the ordinance, and then state statute imposes on city council to refer it to the voters. State statute also gives council the power and authority to set the ballot title. So you, as a city council, are the body and have the authority to put the words in the ballot. So what you are presented with in this ordinance are two ballot questions, which are what you must do under state statute. The first one is to refer allowing marijuana in the city of Cripple Creek to the voters, and I'm going to read that ballot question as presented. The question is, shall the municipal code of the city of Cripple Creek, Colorado be amended to permit and license regulated marijuana facilities within the city, provided that the proposed occupation, excise, and sales taxes on marijuana are also concurrently passed at the general election? So that's question number one that you are referring to the voters. That's wholly in keeping with the intention of the petitioners, because of course they are, the ordinance they presented had both the allowing of marijuana and the taxing of marijuana. So the intent of that petition married those two items, allowing marijuana and taxing marijuana, but state law says that you have to have two separate questions. So we have the first question, as I just read, and now the second question. And what the second question states, and I'm not going to read it verbatim, but what this second question asks the voters to do is to consider whether to impose taxes on marijuana in Cripple Creek if it is allowed. So the first tax that would be imposed would be an excise tax of 5% on the first sale or transfer of unprocessed retail marijuana, with 25% of the revenues to be used to promote destination marketing. That requirement, that 25% of those revenues being used to promote destination marketing is in here because that's what the petitioners circulated in their form of ordinance. It did call for that breakout of those excise tax revenues. So that's why that's in here. The question goes on to make it clear that the remainder, 75% of those revenues from that excise tax go into the general fund and can be spent according to the discretion of the city council when you approve your budget every year. Then there is a second tax that is included in this question. That second tax is also a tax that is allowed by state law, and that is a sales tax on the sale of retail marijuana and retail marijuana products of up to 18%. At the first reading, there was quite a bit of discussion on what that maximum should be, and that council asked to have me look into whether or not that allowable maximum could be up to 18%, and it can. So that is in there now as council directed. The third portion of this question asks the voters to also impose what's known as an occupational tax. That occupational tax is set in this question as being up to a $5 per transaction rate. And so that would be on both retail marijuana and medical marijuana. And the reason it's on both is, again, to be consistent with the ordinance that was circulated by the petitioners, because they did, the drafters of that ordinance did include an excise tax on both medical and retail marijuana. Occupation is a subcategory of an excise tax. And so to be consistent with what the petitioners circulated, we have drafted it so that it is an occupation tax up to $5 per transaction on both medical marijuana and retail marijuana. The last clause of the question is simply to ask the voters, as long as you're approving this tax, will it be subject to the limitations in the state constitution known as Tabor? And it makes it clear that it will not be subject to those limitations. I would be happy to answer any questions and would also recommend passage of this because you are up against a deadline. You must pass this tonight because these ballot questions must be certified by 5:30 p.m. on Friday. 4 o'clock Friday afternoon. So the city clerk must certify these by this Friday. And so again, statute requires you to do this and you're facing a deadline by which you must do it. So I would recommend that you approve this tonight. And again, I would be happy to answer any questions.
I have one. So if you could clarify, the 5% is only on retail,
correct?
And also the sales tax is only on retail.
Yes.
Is medical exempt from those?
Yes.
By state?
It is.
Okay.
The 5% is on the production, so it wouldn't matter whether it's retail or medical.
No, it state law
It does
only
matter.
allows it to be on the retail. There's
Two
two
different
processes.
production
Yeah.
processing ways.
Any other questions?
Thank you for putting all this together.
My pleasure.
Do I hear approval for ordinance 2022-11?
My motion to approve ordinance 2022-11.
Yeah, on both issues.
Well, it's no, we just have, it's
Yeah,
including.
it's on both
Yeah.
issues.
No,
Okay.
it's just one ordinance.
One ordinance.
Then I second.
Vote please.
Councilman Green,
Yes.
Councilman Maneri,
Yes.
Councilman Solomani.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Lauren,
Yes.
Mayor Ashworth.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Then item E, consider request of Clayton Homes of Pueblo for the waiving of water and sewer tap fees for the amount of $48,000 for development of 6 single family residence at 521 and 531 East Carr Avenue, 201, 205, and 209 Main Street, and 302 El Paso Avenue. And per ordinance 2021-09. Ken?
Yes, well, council. You've seen these projects for the most part a few times before. There's total of 8 homes being developed. 6 on, well, 3 on Carr, 3 on Main Street, and 2 more on El Paso, which are maybe new to you. Clayton Homes. Next slide. These are the ones on Carr and Main Street. The construction is started on that. Foundation on 201 Main's in place. Footings on 205 are in place. Excavations for the Carr Street properties are also underway. Next. And so there's 6 houses there. And then here at West El Paso, there are 2 additional single-family homes proposed. There was an existing modular mobile home that's been removed from that property to date. Next. And per the ordinance, there is an opportunity to waive water and tap fees from residential development. So while they're developing 8 homes, they're asking for the relief on 6 water taps, 3/4-inch water taps, which are the value of $4,000 each. 6 sewer taps, also with $4,000 each price tag, and a total tap fees amounting to 48 is asking to be waived at this time. The applicant will be paying the cost to install the actual pipe and water meters at $1,290 each. And they will be spending $7,740 on there. On the Main Street properties, they will be improving the sewer line that runs behind them in the alley at their cost to install that property. So recommend approval of the request. The applicant, Vincent Hall, is here tonight to speak on behalf of Clayton Homes.
Any questions? No. Applicant made. That's all.
Vincent Hall, is Clayton Homes Pueblo. Responsible for overseeing some of the projects in Cripple Creek. To echo what Ken said, that's pretty concise as far as what we're looking to do. Two of the sites had existing taps, so we're going to work with those. We are also replacing some sewer line, which we were not asking for relief from, to modernize what's going on in the alleyway between Car and Main. And we're not asking for any waivers for permits associated with any of the projects.
Any questions? Do I hear a motion to consider request Clayton Homes Pueblo waiving the water tap and sewer fees amount $48,000?
I so move. We waive the tap fees.
Second. Vote please.
Councilman Shenary,
Yes.
Councilman Green,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Wildland,
Yes.
Councilman Solomon,
Yes.
Mayor Ashford.
Yes. Consider a request of Robert Lenore Smith for waiving the water and sewer tap fees amount $8,000 for development of single family residence at 210 West Thurlow Avenue for ordinance 2021-09. Ken?
Yes, very similar request as before. This is for a single family residence on Thurlow. Location is on the south end of town, and just a picture of the site. It does have some floodplain issues, but applicants willing to move forward with this. The home is explained to me tonight that it will be a rental property to increase the housing stock in town. It meets the guidelines of the ordinance. Next slide. Again, it's this quick picture of where the property is. One more, please. And so again, the 3/4 inch water tap has a value of $4,000, sewer taps $4,000 for residential, for total tap fees of $8,000. And the applicant will be responsible for the connection and meter fees of $1,290. Any questions I could address for the council? The applicant is here tonight, but
Laura, you want to speak to it? You don't have to.
I think you pretty much said it all.
Okay. All right, thank you.
I move we approve the waiver of the tap fees for 210 West Thurlow Avenue.
I'll second.
Vote please.
Councilman Solomon,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Wildland,
Yes.
Councilwoman Shenary,
Yes.
Councilman Green,
Yes.
Mayor Ashford.
Yes. This concludes the council budget for this evening. Meeting adjourned.